Good evening, wherever you may be. I'm Ryan in Sacramento. Welcome to the pregame show here on If You Don't Like That, Kings Jazz tonight from the Golden One Center. Looking forward to this one. It's going to be the walking wounded unit for the Jazz suiting up against your Kings, who will be without De'Aaron Fox tonight with a irritated right shoulder. We'll get into all of that in just a few minutes. Happy to have you here. Again, we're looking forward to breaking this one down for you a lot. This is the pregame show here on If You Don't Like That.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter, stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Foley. That is a major league smush.
Welcome back in. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. This is the pregame show on If You Don't Like That. Happy to have you here. Kings Jazz tonight. Beautiful Saturday night game in Sacramento. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but right off the top, let's get your comments in. Let's get your thoughts in. Kings coming off of a big win. The headline tonight, De'Aaron Fox is a no-go. De'Aaron will not be playing tonight for the Kings due to that shoulder injury, right shoulder that he injured last game. No real update on it. He was questionable coming into tonight. Kings had had canceled shoot around. But he is ruled out. So is that a decision based on whether or not Fox is good to go, or is that a strategic decision based on his shoulder and the Utah Jazz, a Utah Jazz team that has struggled mightily until the last two games in which they've won, most recently in Portland, 122-114. So we can talk about that a little more. We can talk about the Jazz as well, who they have out. But first, I want to get to my man, Mark. He is checking in with the brisket. He says it was done, or it is done now, obviously, and it was good. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you checking back in. So let's get to the Jazz really quick. So Jordan Clarkson is going to be out for the Jazz. That's a big hit for them, scoring on the perimeter. John Collins, starting center for the Jazz, he is also out. The Jazz have a team bug going through them right now. So they are dealing with some illness, and everybody pretty much on the active roster is playing really big minutes for right now. And then Keontae George. We know Keontae George, really good shooter, rookie, been pretty darn good for the Jazz this year, and he will be missing the game as well. But the big news, De'Aaron Fox will not play for the Kings tonight. What does that mean for the Kings? What's that mean for this matchup? Kings 8.5-point favorites tonight against the Jazz. Again, as I said, Jazz won 122-114 the other night in Portland. The starters for the Jazz, they were producing. You had four guys in double digits for the Jazz against Portland. Now, granted, Portland, not the best team in the West. We know this. But to come off of the stretch the Jazz had put together 2 games in a row, that's not too shabby for them. And we are getting late word that Talen Horton-Tucker for the Jazz is going to be playing tonight for them as well. He was questionable with the illness. Now, he's the interesting one for the Jazz because with Clarkson out, the Jazz don't have a true point guard. And that's their starting point guard's out. And Tucker's kind of an in-between guy. Sexton, he's more of an off-the-ball guy. The other night in Portland, the Jazz did start Horton-Tucker at the point. I assume they will do the same tonight. As for the Kings, I have not seen who is sliding into the starting lineup for them. Would not be surprised if it is Keon Ellis. No bad updates to report on him with the little tweak. He got up slow in the second half the other night, so he should be good to go. And then how big is Malik Monk going to be in this game tonight? He is going to have to play huge minutes against this Utah Jazz team, which we can't take them lightly. This is a Jazz team that played the Kings really, really well last year. They just matched up well for the most part. And you look at who they still have. They still have Lauri Markkanen. He's a 7-1 guy that can do a little bit of everything from the mid range, can shoot the three ball extremely well. I think he's shooting over 40%. So you got to watch out for him. And then think about Walker Kessler. I said John Collins was their starting center. I guess Walker Kessler, they're interchangeable. They both start. But Walker Kessler, he gave the Kings fits last year. Now, in the first matchup this season, the Kings rolled over the Jazz. If you remember, that was the opening game of the season for the Kings on the road. So we'll see. These teams match up again tonight in Sacramento, getting ready to tip at 7 o'clock. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. Happy to have you here on the pregame show. Give us a thumbs up if you don't mind, if you enjoy what you're seeing. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you guys a part of the channel. You won't get any crazy emails, but you will know when we are going live on YouTube or Twitter Live. So we would appreciate that. So thank you all for being here. Let's get to some of your comments tonight. We're going to start off, as always, with Sports Freak. I think he's talking about Barnes and his invisibility and the season opener, how well Barnes played. You know, that was, to me, it was a one-night thing. Harrison really has not had a performance up to that level since that first game of the season against Utah. Harrison's good for one of those outbursts, one or two of those outbursts every season. If you remember last year, he had started off a game, I think, 7 or 8 threes in a row. So pretty darn solid. But does tonight increase the chances of him having a decent game? Maybe. And I will get to that in a second. There's something about this Jazz team that could cause a big problem for Sacramento, even if De'Aaron Fox was in the lineup. But as we said at the top, De'Aaron Fox is not playing. We already went over who is out, Jazz. Yep, Clarkson is out. We touched on that, as well as Keontae George, John Collins, to mention the ones that are going to hit the Jazz the most. But again, we're talking about a team who is going through some type of bug right now, an illness. So you don't know who that's affecting right now that's playing tonight. So you got to expect you're going to get their best shot. And you've got a bunch of guys on this Jazz roster, with the exception of one, if I'm looking at last game against Portland, that all played significant minutes. I mean, I'm looking at their bench, 25 minutes, 22 minutes, 26 minutes, 26 minutes. 3 minutes. That's the minimum amount last game against Portland, which was a win, 122-114, that took the Jazz now to 9-16 on the season. That was a win that took everybody. So the same is going to be the case tonight in Sacramento. Will the Kings be hurt without Fox, or will lose without Fox? You know what? The good thing that we can point to is we have seen the Kings beat better teams without De'Aaron Fox playing. You can point to a couple of the games, specifically the first OKC game. And the Kings have had a little bit of a run without De'Aaron this year. I believe it was 5 games. So, you know, they treaded water. I think treading water is the fair way to put it. But as it goes for tonight, sure, it hurts. And so the interesting thing about this Jazz team, so the Miami Heat, they average about 10 defensive possessions per game in which they play zone defense. The last 2 games, both games that Utah has won, they have played 56 and 62 possessions of zone defense, and not just a straightforward 2-3 zone. They have a variation of that with a 1-3-1 zone, which is called basically a box and 3. So that is going to be a challenge for the Kings. You can almost bet that the Kings are going to see a ton of zone defense tonight, which is really just that it's that big stake, right? That they are just hanging right. It's that Bennett New York steak, they're hanging right out there for the Kings to come take a bite of, because the Kings have a quick trigger. They've got that green light from beyond the arc. And when it comes to 3-point shooting, we know this team lives and dies by the three. And traditionally this season, we've seen this team start out slow against zone defense. There's been times the Kings eventually kind of work their way through it. They start getting better looks. They start cutting, but it takes them some time. And so that's what worries me without Fox tonight is you're going to have that one decision maker that knows the ball needs to get inside. You've got to work it through Sabonis. You've got to, as Sports Freak put at the top, talking about Harrison Barnes, you've got to tuck him into that short corner. You've got to bring him to the middle, get the ball into the middle. That's how you beat his own defense. And you've got to have a point guard for Sacramento. And now that you don't have De'Aaron on the floor, most importantly, that recognizes the sets that Utah's going to be in tonight defensively, whether it's going to be man defense, whether it's going to be zone and which variation. You've got to know that right off the bat because that affects what the Kings do offensively. So will they lose without Fox? I don't expect them to lose without Fox, but I don't expect this to be a clean game either. I think this is a game where the Kings are going to have to get their feet wet and kind of figure out the couple things that are going to work against this team and stick to those things. They can't fall in love with the three ball if it is not going down and loving them back. So Neil, what is up, my friend? Need to sign Willie Cauley-Stein. Sabonis is just too small to play at center. He should be a power forward. I don't disagree with the power forward suggestion, but signing Willie Cauley-Stein, what's that going to do? It really, I mean, you're not going to get it. He's a more athletic JaVale McGee, more raw JaVale McGee. And JaVale's pretty raw still, even though he's an NBA champion, even though he's a veteran of this league. And a respected member of this roster. So I just don't think that there's much of an improvement there. And it's not as easy to slide Sabonis to the 4 as you think. You have to have the right type of center to slide in with Sabonis at the 4. And that's ideally a center like a Brook Lopez, somebody that spreads the floor, that still gives Sabonis those gaps to attack, those angles to pass. So I get your frustration, but I'm sure the Kings, they built what they're doing largely around Sabonis. And you almost argue he takes on that point guard role tonight for the Kings with De'Aaron Fox out as the administrator of the offense, as the decision maker. What's wrong with Fox? Fox has a right shoulder injury. It happened last game in the second half. He played through it. But it is enough to keep him out tonight. Again, I would like to get more information on whether or not it's something. It doesn't sound like, to me, and this is my professional opinion, it doesn't sound like the Kings are too worried about this because we're not hearing about MRI results. We're not hearing about, X-ray results or anything of that nature. And the fact that they're calling it an irritated right shoulder, that tells me this is more probably precaution than worry, but he is out tonight. So, and thank you for picking us up, Dirt and Dust, putting that there. Seen Fox bowling yesterday. Don't know why he was bowling if he's hurt. Shake my head. Interesting. Well, David is reporting that Fox was bowling yesterday. Could have been bowling with his left. He's lefty. Come on, man. It's his right arm. So, I mean, he could easily be bowling. Now, good look. Leave it up to you guys to decide. Carf, what's up, man? Happy Saturday night to you. Chance to see Markkanen play tonight. Yes, it is. Hey, think about that guy on this Sacramento Kings team. And you think about the skill set he has and how that would immediately mesh and verge into what this team does seamlessly. But a big but. You can want any player, doesn't mean that any player is available. But what does Utah do with Markkanen? Is it a guy they continue to build around? I mean, remember, Utah has a treasure chest of draft picks to play with. And Walker Kessler, he's a heck of a player. They've definitely they have some collateral to play with. So, whether it's a full rebuild, which it does look like it is at this point, 9-16, we'll see, but it's a team to watch. I would certainly keep my eye on them and keep our eye on Laurie tonight. He is a great player. And remind you, he is an all-star. He made the all-star team last year. So yeah, right arm. There you go. He's a lefty. You got it right. Appreciate the cleanup. Edward, what's up, man? Happy to have you here. Shooting's going to decide this game. I hope Kevin, Keegan, and Malik show up. Yeah. The other thing that I would include into shooting would be assists. And the reason I say assists is if Utah follows trend with the last 2 games, and I don't see any reason, especially against a Kings team that likes to play a very fast pace, it would be shocked if Utah is not playing a lot of zone tonight like they did the past 2 nights. But assists, that's what I want to see tonight, because obviously those go with shooting. But if the Kings are taking unassisted shots and they are not making unassisted shots and that ball's not moving, we know players have a tendency to get lost in this offensive system. Just look at our starting lineup as point and case one: Harrison Barnes. Look at Kevin Huerter, who you mentioned. Keegan sometimes can get lost. However, Keegan's played really great the last few games. I've really liked what he's done, regardless of how the numbers have shaken out at the end of the night. But yeah, you want to get all those guys to show up. I mean, you want them to show up every single night. So you're correct there. I want to see Keon continue to do well. Yeah, well, Grant, so I was really high on Keon's performance after last game. Obviously, 17 points, one of Keon's best games of his career. But I was really high on it. Not so much from the production, but just how smooth things looked with him, Monk, and Fox together. Also, just spacing on the floor, his ability to adjust. He's not a one-dimensional player. I see Davion Mitchell a little bit. I'll just say it. He is one-dimensional offensively. He's robotic offensively. And that's not Keon Ellis. So do you want to see that success to continue? Absolutely. But Grant always reminds us that the NBA is all about matchups. And Grant was very, very clear to say, well, don't forget about matchups. So I think you will see variance in what he does offensively, but I think the matchups will dictate a lot. But to do what he did and keep his composure, that's one of the things. You didn't see a guy getting frustrated when SGA was getting all these foul calls and, nicking at things where Keon thought, he was in good defensive position. You didn't see Keon get frustrated. You saw him go to work. And, he tweaked things, he adjusted, and that's what I personally like to see. And I feel like that is a different look at that backup point guard role than we have seen here in the last year or so. So hopefully it continues. Good game for it to continue. What's up, Edward? He's coming back with some Fox. Not having Fox is going to hurt. Keegan and Malik. Oh, we already went there. My bad. You had 2 in a row. I hit the wrong one. Jazz have a lot of size, but they're not the most functional team on offense. No, they're not, but those are the teams that give the Kings problems. Size and dysfunctional. I don't want to say the Jazz are not dysfunctional offensively, but yeah, they're bigger. Yeah, not as athletic. I think that's what you're getting at, especially with some of the guys they have out. Collins, specifically Clarkson, Keontae George. So sure, that's a fair comment. Light's getting back in on the conversation. Kings have played slow without Fox. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep up the pace. Yeah, it will be indeed. Kings Jazz here, tipping off in about another 10 minutes or so. So looking forward to that. Hope you guys are all having a great Saturday. You guys and gals, I should say, are having a great Saturday night. Thanks for being here on the pregame show. Ryan in Sacktown. And don't forget, we'll be right back here at halftime on If You Don't Like That. Grant Napier, Grant's channel. This is Grant's baby right here. He will be on the halftime show breaking down the first half with me. Jerry has the night off. Jerry has earned a well-deserved night off. So Grant and I will have halftime responsibilities, and then we will be back at the end of the night breaking things down. So again, Kings coming into this game, 8.5-point favorites. No De'Aaron Fox. Utah without many players tonight, most notably John Collins, Keontae George, and also Jordan Clarkson. So let's get Ron in here. Ron, how you doing tonight? I think Keon will do well. He's looking more comfortable lately. If he keeps his shooting percentage up, we'll be good. Yeah, he's a streaky shooter. When he gets it going, he gets it going. So it's the ability to be able to make that one shot that they need when the Kings need it, because that was one of the things that really hurt the Kings and ultimately took Davion Mitchell off the floor in the playoffs last year. Let's not mince words. It was his offensive performance that took him off the floor. So Keon, if he can get on the offense and start making some open shots like he did the other night, it's going to be a good fit. Yeah, defensively is a little bit of a struggle, but there's not a single defensive guy in the league, not one defensive player that you could bring into the Sacramento Kings team that would change what they do defensively or make the team drastically better. So you got to keep that in mind. Rich in New Zealand, man. I hope New Zealand was great, by the way. Hoping to see the game at the Auckland Fish Market like our last win. Proud American. Yes, indeed, my friend. Enjoy New Zealand. It's summertime, I believe, over there. So enjoy the fish market, man. Paul, what's up? Hope you're having a great Saturday night. So I know a lot of you were getting in on the post-game show and even on Grant's Open Forum show last night saying you want Christmas rants. You want Grant to do the Christmas rant. Go to YouTube. Go check that out. I think you got to let the Christmas rant just sit. You got to leave it alone. There's one Grant Napier Christmas rant, and it will always live on YouTube. Go listen to that one there. But we haven't gotten him to rant in a while. So we gotta get a rant. So maybe start thinking about those. And I hope all of you are getting ready and all ready for the holiday season. I know we are not, but that's how we do things. But enough about all that. Kings Jazz tonight. Kings 1-0 on the season against the Jazz. One of the Kings' best wins of this, or not best wins, but most consistent performances of the season coming in Utah opening night to beat the Jazz. So first time the Kings will see them since then. Jazz again playing without a bunch of guys, but Kalen Horton-Tucker is going to be available for them, which is big. But Collins, Clarkson are out. So that's going to be hurting them tonight. We've talked about that. With no Fox, time for Sabonis and Kevin Huerter to find some rhythm. Well, now, Jay, that's what I worry about. So I'm not sure if you caught the top of the show. And by the way, hi, Jay. Tell Kathy hello for me as well. That is my worry about this Jazz team. It's the fact that they like to play zone defense, or at least they have really lived on the zone defense the last two games. Again, the Miami Heat nightly average for zone defense possessions against other teams sits at 10, highest in the NBA. The last two games the Utah Jazz have played in, because of their injuries, because of the illness that their team is currently dealing with, presumably they have played 56 and 62 possessions of zone defense. If we look at what the Kings did last game offensively, the Kings shot 92 shots. So that, if that translates to tonight, that's going to be roughly, and we go in the middle of both of those games, that's roughly going to be half of the offensive possessions for the Kings tonight. So that is where this game could get really mucked up. It could not be smooth. It could cause the Kings problems. So that is going to be the big thing that the Kings are going to be facing tonight. And with that comes obviously assists. We talk about the assist to turnover ratio. You wanting it to be 3-1. usually the ratio that the Kings win with. And then also you look at just the assists. We talk about the turnover, excuse me, but also you look at without De'Aaron Fox, who is going to run things, keep things smooth, as Jay said. It's going to fall on Sabonis, but it's going to take the leaders of this team tonight to set the example on how to break this zone defense. Presumably that the Jazz will be playing a lot tonight. And again, it's a variable zone. Sometimes it's 2-3. It can be a 1-3-1. They can do some trapping. So you need somebody to identify what set they're in, and whether that's Sabonis, whether that's Keon Ellis, whether that's, Monk is the guy the Kings have to have tonight. And the level Malik Monk has been playing the last week, 2 weeks, I don't think it's a problem tonight for the Kings without Fox. I think Monk can make those decisions. Now, Monk can also at times make bad decisions with the basketball, and he's good for maybe one or two a game where he gets caught in the air, or he's kind of tiptoeing the sideline, whatever it may be. He's good for one or two of those. But we can't have a night where Malik's got 5, 6, 7 of those, because that's going to bleed into the other guys. That means the guys that you guys are talking about getting going, Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, that means the ball's not touching their hands. And that can cause a problem, especially against his own defense. I can't reinforce that enough. Let's get fired up. Let's go, Ash. Welcome to the show, Ash. Happy to have you here again. Kings, Jazz, getting ready to hit the 7 o'clock hour here in just a couple of minutes. They tip off about between 7:05, 7:10-ish. So we are excited for that. Don't forget, Grant will be here at halftime with myself, and we will be breaking down the first half. No Jerry Reynolds tonight. Jerry is off and enjoying a Saturday night off. What do you think Jerry Reynolds is doing? He's got his popcorn ready, hoping to watch the Kings win. So, and then Grant and I will be wrapping up the night tonight on If You Don't Like That after the Kings and the Jazz. We've got some rant ideas. I like it, Edward. Well, I have a moment. I've got to tell you about one of our favorite places, or at least one of my favorite places to go. That's Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. I can't sing the praises of this place enough. Bennett's, if you have not been there, you have got to get out there. Brian Bennett and his team know how to do steak and seafood and sandwiches and everything else you can think of, right? There's a little something on the menu for everybody. Prime cuts of steak, as I said, prime seafood. And also, don't forget about their specials. They've got some amazing different specials they run weekly, whether it's the weekend brunch, whether it's the weekend, I believe Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know Saturday, Sunday for sure, prime rib. And then also they have happy hour specials and over 60 different wines by the glass. So, we love our Bennett's. We are very partial to the redfish, but again, can't really get a bad portion there. And by the way, don't forget, having a holiday party, think about Bennett's. They've got some beautiful private dining rooms at most of their locations, I should say. And if you got a loved one in the Sacramento area and you're out of town, go to bennettsrestaurants.com. You can get an email, or you can get a gift card digitally and send it to them for Christmas. So anyways, we love Bennett's. If you haven't tried it already, go in, give them a try. Tell them Ryan and Grant sent you. Again, Bennett's in Rockland, and then also other locations in Roseville and off of Howe and Fair Oaks. So Kings, Jazz tonight. De'Aaron Fox, a no-go for the Kings. Again, a game the Kings should have no problem. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Walt. But a game the Kings should have tonight, regardless of Fox not in the lineup, but definitely a game that we should not be looking over. Considering how the Kings sometimes have struggled against teams that are that have their back against the wall. That's the best way to put it. And this Utah Jazz team tonight, they believe they had a losing streak and they've won 2 in a row. So they're going to be ready to go tonight. Kings should be ready to go. Kings play really well on a day rest. So I think that as long as the Kings handle that zone defense well, they're going to be just fine. So Hey, we're going to get ready to wrap up the pregame show, but I appreciate all of you for being here. Grant and I will be back at halftime right here on If You Don't Like That. And don't forget, as always, we have the postgame coverage right here on If You Don't Like That. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Kings Jazz tonight, Golden One Center. De'Aaron Fox, no go. And that's all right. Kings will step it up without him. Go Kings. Light the beam. We will see you at halftime. Thank you so much for checking in. See you at the half.